Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Hassan, Manager Libraries British Council, and I will be co-moderating today's session with my wonderful colleague Humaira.
Hello.
Before
Just waiting for everybody to join in. I think there are some people in the lobby. Admitted them. Yeah.
Okay, everyone seems to be in now, and we can continue. So before we begin, we have a couple of housekeeping rules. When you join in, please keep your cameras and mics off and only switch them on when the instructor or the facilitator asks you to. In case you have any questions, you can post them in the chat below. And if the time permits, we can take as many questions as we can towards the end of the session. For quality assurance purposes and promotional purposes, this session is being recorded. I would now like to invite Rashi Jain, who is the Area Director West India and Country Business Development Lead, to deliver the welcome note and introduce Bee Rowlatt.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome everyone to our reading marathon for adult learners. I'm delighted to be here among such an enthusiastic group of current and future readers. For me, reading has always been extremely personal. I think I draw my initial inspiration from my mother, who's a physicist, by the way, but from an earlier generation, of course. But who has always believed and continues to remind us that if you know how to truly engage with a book in any format, whether paper or digital, you are never alone. And that I think has stayed with me throughout my life. I see that come alive even today. Whenever she comes to Bombay, the first thing where I'm based out of, the first thing she does is go check out a library. And I mean, before doing anything else, before I take her to the beautiful cafes we have around us, she's like, I want to see the library first. That also has always been a solid reminder that, it's a quiet but powerful way of continuing lifelong source of curiosity, comfort, and connections. And that's what books offer to you. Keeping the interest in the avid readers like her, and of course, all of you present here, the British Council's digital library platform serves as a rich and accessible resource that you can explore anytime, and the best part is anywhere. It offers an extensive collection of more than 100,000 plus ebooks, audiobooks, films, and learning material designed to support a wide range of interests, whether you need it for personal development or for professional growth. Engaging readers from, and this was a massive learning for me as well, engaging readers from more than 30 countries. Some of you are present here from the whole of the world, and we're very delighted that you've been able to join this challenge with us. But today, we are here to kickstart a reading marathon. This series of reading marathon is an inspiring journey into the world of learning. This was introduced in 2024, and since then, the program itself has engaged 20,000 plus participants across, as I mentioned previously, these 30 countries. Encouraging reading supported by curated content, author engagements, you will see one today, and of course, certifications. And we are very excited that you're going to be part of the next cohort of these exclusive readers. And we couldn't have had a better year to launch this. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but the year 2026 also has been earmarked as the UK's National Year of Reading. It's your opportunity now to explore thought-provoking books, engage with diverse voices like all present in this room today and beyond, and broaden your horizon. And that too at your own pace. Along the way, you can take part in interactive sessions, engage in discussions, and share insights with fellow participants. The icing on the cake is that you also, as you complete your reading journey, you will also receive a certificate to recognize your commitment and achievement. But beyond all this, today is especially exciting, especially for me, as we are joined by an inspiring guest, Bee Rowlatt, whom you can see in the center of at least my screen. Bee, would you like to say a good hi to everybody? Thanks, Bee, who will add a
Hi,
special
everyone.
dimension. Hi, Bee. Thank you for joining us, who will add a special dimension to our reading experience. A little bit more about Bee. Bee is a writer, journalist, and a cultural programmer at the British Library. Her first novel, One Woman Crying Way, follows her award winning travelogue In Search of Mary. She co founded the bestseller, and I'm sure most of you would have heard of it, talking about Jane Austen in Baghdad, and also contributed to the 50 Shades of Feminism, not the 50 Shades of Grey. She has recently been awarded an MBE, and congratulations, B, for that, for services to women's rights. Her works are also available through the British Council Digital Library, which you all can access. And we are delighted to have B with us today. Welcome once again, B. With this, I think it's time for me to declare the reading marathon formally open and hope you enjoy the 2 months journey with us. Thank you all for joining now. And now I'm absolutely delighted to again pass on the mic to B, someone I've been really looking forward to hearing from. Over to you, B.
Thank you so much, Rashi. It's a real pleasure to be with you. I'm going to ask a quick favour. Can everybody turn on their camera so that we can all wave at each other? Because I want to have a real human connection, and it would be very nice to see your faces. If you're able, pop your cameras on. Let's have a little wave. But if you're feeling shy, you don't have to. But it's nice to know that you're out there and that you're not asleep. So thank you so much for joining us. And it's always a pleasure to join anything that the British Council does, because I love the things that they do. It's very creative and it's very connecting, which is a pleasure in our digital era. As Rashi just said, my name's Bee Rowlatt. I'm a writer, and I've come to join you to talk about how I became a writer. There are two different stories here. There's the first story, which is, well, let's come to that. But before I talk about my journey into being a writer, I'm going to talk about the importance of reading, because Rashi mentioned that here in Britain, there is a year-long campaign on the benefits of reading, and it's turned up some really interesting data. I feel like we're all friends here in this group. You are library people, therefore you're my people. And so some of this won't be news to you. But the focus for the campaign is very much on the pleasure of reading and reading for pleasure. However, there are also some extraordinary new insights into the sort of preventative, almost health-giving effects of reading, which are that it can help with mental health problems. It can actually help with deterioration of mental health in later life. It can reduce stress, and it doesn't really matter what you read. It's just the act of absorbing into a book. And the history of reading itself is quite revolutionary. So there's a British journalist called James Marriott. He writes for the Times, and he's written on this from a very European perspective. But Indians and Pakistanis already know that it was the power of literacy that overthrew the British rule, because the independence movement relied on the newspapers, the articles, people's ability to read and to share communication. So there's a close connection to the transformational powers of literacy historically. From the European angle, it has a similarly revolutionary history. Really, it was a game changer in the 18th century. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through every century in detail, but there's a particular point in time which there's an explosion of reading, and it was a really exciting era. The 1700s, the printing press was invented, and it began as an elitist enterprise, as essentially a sort of religious, very top-down mechanism. But over the course of this century, it exploded into cheap books and cheap and widely accessible reading materials. And what this did was to diffuse the practice of reading, the simple practice of engaging with words on a page, down from the elites to the middle classes and even into the lower ranks of society. And so towards the end of the 18th century, you get radical thinkers like Mary Wollstonecraft, someone I've written a lot about, a fascinating woman from history. And she was amongst those early people to propagate dangerous ideas in print. Ideas like her work, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman in 1792. No one had published a detailed demand for gender equality in the English language before this. She opens the publication with the words, "I demand justice for one half of the human race." And it was designed to be as accessible and as widely available as possible. So this transformation that took place is sometimes known as the reading revolution. And it was an unprecedented democratization of essentially of information, of the flow of knowledge. And it's been described as, you know, a huge transfer of knowledge from the elites into the hands of ordinary men and women, which is all very wonderful. Fast forward to now, and the story is a bit different. So the average person now spends roughly 7 hours a day staring at a screen. And I know we're doing that now, but this is a bit different. For Gen Z, obviously the figure's higher, 9 hours estimated. And for Gen Alpha, for our teenagers, which one of my kids is a teenager, I can't even guess how much time he's spending on a screen. I daren't look. But a recent article in the British News found that average modern students will spend 25 years of their lives scrolling on screens. I know. Now, you have to ask yourselves, who's benefiting? Who's doing well out of the time and content we give online? So the reverse of that, I will ask you to reflect the opposite, if you like. The counterweight is reading. It's a solitary pursuit that doesn't require electricity or further connectivity or control by dodgy billionaire tech bros. So let's return to reading and the pleasure of reading. And it's a study, actually I can share it in the chat. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's a study about mental health and well-being was undertaken for over 10,000 students, and it's an interesting one. So I will just pop it here in the chat so you can see. We do have a chat, don't we? Here we go. I'm going to pop it there so you all can see what I'm talking about. I figured that you kind of already know because you're here. I've undertaken my own research on this subject very informally. When I'm not writing books, I work at the British Library, which is our sort of national archive. It's a huge, huge library, and it's full of people doing research and writing, and also flirting a lot. Like there's a lot of social connection, shall we say, and it's just kind of lovely because it shows that not only books are good for our health, but people being around books and being around other people who love books is just a good thing. That's my unscientific survey. And I should add that librarians are my heroes, because no matter what happens in this crazy world, if you have a library, you're really lucky. So back to the question of how did I become a writer? I won't spend too long because I'm kind of excited to hear from you guys soon. But like I said, there are two stories as to how I became a writer. Here's the first, and it's an individual story like any other individual story. I basically was a journalist for the BBC, and I accidentally wrote a book with a woman in Iraq in a war zone. We began an email correspondence. After connecting as a journalist, I was looking for interviewees. And it began a very long, over a period of years, correspondence, which culminated in her saying to me, "Your country invaded my country, get me out of here." And the book essentially is all of our emails up to the point at which, spoiler alert, we get her out to safety. She lives now in the UK. But it's about war, it's about international connections, it's also about a shared love of literature. And so that became the book talking about Jane Austen in Baghdad. The next book that I wrote was about Mary Wollstonecraft, who I mentioned just before. She is a hero of the Enlightenment period. She was an early architect of the concept of human rights. And a very important philosopher, not just around politics and philosophy itself and the meaning of existence, but the creation of rights and a rights system that centered humanity at its heart. And I am the founding chair and trustee of something called the Wollstonecraft Society, which shares educational materials about her legacy, her human rights legacy. Totally amazing woman. The next book I wrote was called One Woman Crime Wave. That was a work of fiction about a quite badly behaved teenage girl. And I'm currently working on another non-fiction book, which is a cultural history of nostalgia and how nostalgia is being used to fuel a wave of kind of right-wing populism around the world, and very particularly here. So that's one story of how I became a writer, and it's like many other people's stories, but the second version is the useful one for you, and I think it's perhaps more important. It's a story you can learn from. I became a writer by being a reader. This created the necessary conditions for writing. It was absolutely integral and foundational, although I didn't know it at the time. But like Rashi said, my mum was a big influencer. So here's to book campaigning mums. My mum read everything to me. Nothing was off limits. I read all kinds of books as a young person and a teenager, and I still read voraciously. I'm very much not a book snob. I read all kinds, from high literature to anything really that I can get my hands on. Articles, poems, non-fiction, books, jokes. I love audiobooks and podcasts too, but there's something about holding a book in your hand, just holding it. Oh, hello, this book's by me. How lovely. There's something about holding it in your hands, this enchanted device that can unlock whole worlds and transport you inside any other place, imagined or unimagined. And the reason this is important is because all of us are writers. This is true because every day, each one of us dedicates words from inside our brains to an external source of some kind, even if you're writing a shopping list, as little as sending a message to a friend, and every mother who's held a baby and murmured a song or repeated comforting words. This is all part of the creative act that is writing. And how did we all get there? How did we all of us become writers? Yes, by being readers. And it's a question that's always asked of published authors. How can I be a writer too? This always comes up. How can I be a writer? And there it is. That's the answer. It's the one simple answer. In order to be a writer, you have to be a reader. It's the necessary prerequisite. Every single one of the authors on the shelves of the British Council libraries where you are right now, every one of those, without exception, nourished and developed and fed their brains and their selves through the magical and mysterious medium of reading. It's how our brains grow, and it's how we learn about and connect to each other's humanity. So I will conclude. For the good of this angry and impatient world, and for the good of our own exhausted and stressed brains, take a screen break and pick up a book. Thank you.
That was brilliant, Bee. And the angry and the passionate is the world right now, as we all know it, is too fast for us, and we are just trying to catch up after 7 hours of screen. Of course, we do need to have some downtime to read a book. The chat is open for all participants to put in their questions to Bee, and regarding what we will be reading, how it's going to be processed. Later on, we have a presentation which my colleague Valavan will be sharing in a bit. So any questions? We don't see any questions, but I have a question. How do you accidentally write a book?
Oh, so the email correspondence that developed into talking about Jane Austen in Baghdad was a private and personal correspondence. And we'd been writing to each other for years before she said, "Get me out of here." And even then I looked around, and it's very difficult to be a refugee. Everybody knows that it's really, really hard to be a refugee. And how do you bring someone in? And we looked at various ways, legal and otherwise. We looked at all the options, and we tried multiple ways. And in the end, somebody said to me, "This is really interesting. The story is really amazing. You're a journalist. Can't you do something like make a book?" And I found an agent who snapped up the idea, and there was actually a sort of publishing auction that lots of people were very interested in the story. Of course, my interlocutor, May, my friend, was still in Baghdad at this stage. She was still in a war zone as this took place. It was tremendously fraught and stressful, but eventually one of the big publishing houses, Penguin, offered a big advance, £10,000, and this, curiously, was the exact amount that she needed in order to qualify for a student visa. So she was able to qualify for a scheme in which she could come over and do her PhD, but she needed that money in order to, you have to show that you won't be destitute to come and study. And so the advance from the book was like the last piece of the jigsaw, and it enabled her to come finish her studies, and the book was published. So
Amazing.
it was a beautiful story, and it's not that often that you get a really happy ending on a true story, but it was a real sort of powerful testament to kind of international sisterhood.
That it is the sisterhood of the traveling pants and all of that. So you can see, we have a question. We have 3 questions in the chat, and the first one is, would you like to do an online book club? By Nishka.
Oh,
She
Nishka,
was-
oh, that's a lovely idea. I find online quite stressful. I mean, it's lovely for things like this, but you know, I do spend, like everyone, too much time online. So my personal mission, I guess, is to seek out more just human connections, and also just to go outside and look at a tree from now and again. But that's a very beautiful idea, Nishka. And if you set one up, let me know.
So yeah, let all of us know that we would love to join your all readers. Rashi has a question for those just beginning their reading journey. What's one book or habit you would recommend to get started?
Well, that's a really good question. And that connects to partly to Nishka's question. Reading groups are lovely because it's sociable. You know, it's a really nice way of people connecting and just sharing one book without too much pressure, and you don't have to like it. And often I've been in reading groups where you haven't even read it, or you've read some of it, but you just show up for the conversation. It's a nice social way of just bringing you in the direction of reading. And the other thing is to not feel the obligation to read something mighty and something important. Just, you know, go into a bookshop, an independent bookshop, and see what's there, and talk to the book staff, because bookshop people, a bit like librarians, are great. Yes, they're great experts in humanities, so they'll be a really good place to start, I would say.
There's another question by Megha. She's asking your work across fiction, journalism, and biography. How do you decide whether a story is best told through facts or through fiction?
That's such a good question. I still don't know the answer. So I think about this a lot. Okay, fiction, journalism, biography. So this is such a good question. This is how you get under a reader's skin, and I think that drama, I think that fiction is incredibly powerful. I think that fiction and storytelling has at its heart, you know, the most powerful narratives that can really reach within someone's imagination. However, in the world of publishing and journalism, to use facts and to use data and to use lived experience is also a really important part of that. So I think I don't want to kind of sound like I'm swerving the question, but I think there's an equal weight to both. I think in particular in this era of disinformation, misinformation, the use of facts and the handling of facts and the respect for facts is vital and should be kind of protected. Journalism is really important. So I don't want to place that beneath fiction. I've experimented, so I've done both, and I don't know. I think I've gone back to my safe place, which is non-fiction, and I think it's because I spent so long as a journalist that I have more faith that I can put more of my power into non-fiction and reporting things that are drawn from real life. Having said that, I read tons of fiction and I adore it. So that's not a brilliant answer, but it's a very good question. Thank you, Megha.
Leading up to that is by Daneen, the question it's a very good follow-up. Which book do you wish more people should read?
Okay, I have a hot tip, and it's called Uprising, and it's by Tamima Anam. It's my book of the year. I absolutely love it. I love it. It's just come out. It's amazing. It's short, and it will just blow your socks off.
So that's the answer for Daneen. What does your TBR look like? Sarah's asking.
So I'm reading books. So in a break from fiction, you know, I love fiction and I champion fiction a lot, but because I'm also on a book deadline, I have to deliver my next book on the 1st of September.
All the
Right.
best.
Take some deep breaths. And in order to force myself in this direction, there's quite a lot of non-fiction that I have to read, and a lot of the non-fiction that I'm reading is about politics, and I kind of hinted at this at the end of my little speech. Everything's really angry right now. It's actually really horrible right now. It's horrible in most places. It's really stressful, and the politics has become, people are now against something instead of being for things. Like we don't vote for things, we vote against things, and everything's very negative. And so my next work is in this space, in this area of thinking. And so I'm reading books about populism, why it's happening everywhere, where it's coming from, what to do about it. And it's been really interesting, actually, and a little bit depressing, but you know, we have to confront these issues.
So do you think cancel culture is taking a bit of an effect on all of this, because the world being angry and all, not agreeing with?
No, I don't think cancel culture at all, actually. I think people say that things have been cancelled, but that's not true. I just don't believe it. I don't think that cancel culture. I think cancel culture is a way of describing limiting political freedoms. And so, you know, when people standing up for minority rights and doing that in an assertive way, everyone goes, oh, are you going to cancel me because I'm racist? And it's like, well, no, actually, you haven't been cancelled. You know, the elites are still there, and as far as I'm concerned, the existing power structures are still there. And so the people that talk about cancel culture tend to have very, very large platforms and make a lot of noise about being cancelled. And it's like, well, exactly how are you cancelled is my impression.
Good food for thought. I have a question from Jignesh over here. He says that he often buys books. Jignesh says that they often buy a book with excitement and start reading them, but after a few pages or chapters, they lose focus and don't finish. What would you advise on how to stay engaged and complete a book for such readers?
Hey, Jignesh, that's not a problem. You don't have to finish a book, genuinely. You know, I just don't think you found the right book. And when you find the right book, you won't be able to put it down. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think honestly, don't punish it. Don't like go, oh, I have to finish this book. Oh, don't stick with it. Just keep going. Just keep breezing on. It's not a problem. You know, again, ask your librarian, because they'll be able to find something for you. There's some
All
great
available
questions
for
coming
them.
up.
And you also mentioned a gender demand for publication, female gender and all. That was also something very intriguing to know. How do you see female authors versus male authors as like who's this is going to be a bit controversial. Like, would you rather read a female author than a male author on the same subject, or you would rather read both of them together and then compare who has what point of view? How would you go about that?
I don't think it is a controversial question. I think it's a really interesting question, and I have quite strong views on this, which not everybody will love, but I am a feminist, and for thousands of years, men were holding the pen. And so it's about time women took that pen and started writing. And so I feel that we have an obligation to catch up on women's writing. That is not to say I don't want to read books by men. I was raised on writing by men. I was raised on Thomas Hardy, William Shakespeare, William Blake, Charles Dickens, you name it. They are my lifeblood. But you know, now I go swiftly to Jane Austen. I mean, not just Eurocentric writers either, but my tendency is to address that imbalance. There's another really important point to make here. In the book buying public, men will only read books by men. Women, and this is global, and the data bears this out, women will read books by men and women. Men will only read books by men. And so I have to say, men, come on, you're missing out on half a world of literature. And I do find this astonishing. And it's still pointed out. So in Britain, we have a thing called the Women's Prize for Literature.
Yep.
And people go, there isn't a men's prize for literature. And it's like all the prizes have been there for men's literature, and men have been winning them for centuries. And yet still we have to open this space because, we can prove this is true because women still disguise their names. The Bronte sisters did it. They disguised themselves as Acton, Ellis and Currer Bell so that people wouldn't know that they were women. And it still happens today. People give themselves names like Alex, which can be gender neutral. And lots of my writer friends do that. They'll call themselves Sam or Alex, and they do it for a reason, because then men will buy their books because they don't know that it's written by a woman. So I do have quite strong views on that, and I don't apologize for it.
Perfectly, we don't need to. And so we have two very interesting questions in the chat as well. Do you think a writer should have a background in journalism or something related to literature? Or is it something anyone can become? She's asking because I get that creeping feeling sometimes. This is by Kathleen.
So by creeping feeling, is there something in you that wants to come out? You want to write? I can't see you, but I feel like, I mean, I hope I made this point. I feel like everyone's a writer. Everyone can be a writer. And if you're getting that feeling, you should already be writing. You should be having a journal. You should be just writing it. Just carry a notepad around with you at all times. I don't think you need a background. Most journalists aren't trained in journalism, and most writers. I mean, there's been a fashion for doing a master's in creative writing, but I wouldn't bother. I just think, everyone has a story that no one else. I mean, what's your name? Kathleen.
Yeah.
Kathleen, you will have a story that no one else can write. I can't write it, and Fatima can't write it. Only you can write it. And so, it's up to you.
Perfect answer. So Kathleen, don't be afraid of anything. Just go for it. So there's another question. That how do you manage your reading list? And do you pick a title out at a time, or maybe have a specific title for a certain period of time?
My reading list is just chaos. Nice to meet you, Eraste. Thank you for being here. My reading list is things, so it's partly pleasure, partly business, partly sort of research for my next work. So like I said, I'm reading lots of non-fiction and sort of historical things. And then for pleasure, I'll pick up, lots of my friends are writers, so I like to sort of support their work. So it really, it just flies towards me rather than me organizing it. I feel like it just kind of, books just fly towards me and I just go woo woo and kind of catch them, which is a good thing, because if I actually went shopping for books, my house would I mean this is just a fraction. It's just ridiculous how many books I've got. So because I don't really like getting rid of books either. I love to be surrounded by them. So yes, I would say my reading list is not well managed.
Perfect. So I'm going to read out another question, and we'll take two more questions, and then we'll move on to the presentation. Sinha wants to know, like you said, men are more likely to buy and read works by men. Does this also apply to white or Eurocentric authors? Does the majority of the English-speaking world prefer maybe subconsciously white authors?
So this is, again, a really interesting question. I think that was the case. Well, that certainly was the case. I mean, you only have to look at the canon of English literature to realise that it's overwhelmingly white, despite the fact that, Britain went out and invaded, most of the world landmass. So interesting that that wasn't reflected. However, that has changed a lot. School curriculum, I know, I've got 4 kids and I've seen what they study in literature at school, and it's very different from what I studied in literature at school. There's West African diaspora, there's South Asian diaspora, there's writers from all over that have either come and sort of explained their journey around the world, or that have stayed, I'd say, for example, Arundhati Roy, people that are still there but writing about their experiences. So I think that people's reading appetites have definitely globalized. And one of the great things about the literary prizes, say, for example, the Booker International Prize, is that each year it brings swathes of new writers, international writers. It also celebrates the translators. And it's really important. And I think this has, over the last 10, 20 years, had an impact. There is a pushback. There was a drive during the time of COVID. There was an expansion of trying to be more inclusive of literature in the cultural sphere, trying to be more inclusive and more representative. Currently, the political climate is very tense.
Mhm.
And you will have seen in the United States, and to a much lesser extent in Europe, but in the United States, they're like, diversity and inclusion,
Mhm.
Essentially it's white supremacy is what we're seeing in the United
Mhm.
States. And it's very alarming and very frightening, because you think, oh, well, that's just America, that'll never happen here. But lots of these things are kind of dripping and trickling around the world. And so, yes, I see my job as increasingly important, particularly the work I do in the British Library, because I program events. And we bring writers and we showcase writers and we platform writers. So I work even harder to make sure that white supremacy does not succeed.
Great
And it's a
answer.
question you should never think, oh, that's great. Oh, we've had some Indian writers. Okay, right, we're equal now. That's great. You have to constantly scrutinize and constantly look for new writers. So yeah, thank you for asking me that.
That was also a very good question.
Yeah.
There's this now we'll have the last question, and that is, if you were not an author, or what would you be?
Well, so I'm an author. I also program events. I also run a human rights charity, the Wollstonecraft Society. So I feel like I have 3 jobs already. I love having jobs. I would never sort of like stay at home and not have a job. I love being out in the world. It would have to be something creative. Maybe, no, to be honest, I love my job so much. It's the best job in the world. And being a writer is such a privilege. I love it. I just love it. The earlier question about that, that creeping feeling when a book is kind of bubbling inside you, it's really important to listen to that. Humans are creative. We want to communicate. We want to connect. And if you get that feeling, I described. Someone once asked me about writing One Woman Crime Wave, the novel that I wrote. And it was really hard work. I'm actually quite embarrassed how long it took to write me. It took a very long time to write, but I felt like it was scratching its way out. It had to come out. I couldn't stand it.
It's a feeling
I couldn't
that you
stand not
can't. Yeah.
writing it. Yeah, exactly. I couldn't stand to not write it. So I feel very lucky that that's what I do.
Great. Last question. The last question. Have you read any great African writers?
Writers. Oh gosh. You're putting me on the spot because I've got the name on the tip of my tongue. I can't. Oh, this is really embarrassing. There's 2 that spring to mind. And I'm having a menopausal brain moment, and I can't remember them. I mean, will you allow me to search, or is that really bad?
That's totally fine. I mean, you can put it in the chat, or you can reply to the chat.
Yes,
And
yes. Somebody
we
else
will.
talk for a minute, and I'll remind myself because.
Sure. Now that we will move to my colleague Valavan to present some guiding rules and how to go about the reading challenge. If Valavan is ready, let me know.
I've remembered it. Oh, sorry.
You've remembered it.
It was Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. And I know that that's a monstrous classic and a really obvious choice, but it speaks to the end of empire and to sort of imperial intent and imperial damage in a way that I think is actually really relevant today. So I would, even though it's a very well-thumbed classic, I would give a shout out for that.
She's a great author, by the way. And now moving on to Valavan for the presentation. Thank you so much, Bee, for all of your insights and your wonderful presentation as well, and the entire knowledge on how to go about the books. And now we move to Valavan, and Bee is still here. If you have any questions, do put them in the chat, and please do follow the pinned post guidelines. Thank you. Over to you, Valavan.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Meera. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, right. So, hello everyone. So, in this part, we'll see how to access the digital library, accessing the collection, how to borrow books, and information about the digital library app. So, first step to access the digital library portal, you have to log in to the digital library page. So, from your computer, you can use this URL app.mylove.xyz. So it is available with everyone. So we also share this one in the program guide along with the joining link. So you have to choose your country and you have to enter the user ID and password and press login. So once you log into this digital library page, By default, you will be landed up in the dashboard page of the digital library, where you can see the icons of all kind of resources available in the digital library, like newspapers, magazines, audiobooks, fiction, and many more. So for this reading marathon program, we recommend you to access the audiobooks and fiction. So when you click fiction page, it will take you to the second page where you can see list of available titles in the digital library collection. So if you select any one of the book, you can see a borrow option immediate next to the cover page of the title. So you can borrow the books. So once you click the borrow option, you can see a name and the validity period of the book. So generally you can keep a book for 14 days with you. So like this, you can keep up to three titles at the same time in your account. So few basic things about this reading marathon program. All the participants have to read four books from the digital library collection in 2 months period. So whenever you finish complete a book, you have to fill the reading log. So reading log link is already shared with you along with the joining link. So during this 2 month period, for any kind of communication, we will send you through email. And if you have any queries, you can always write to digitallibrary@britishcouncil.org. So you can share your video testimonials about your reading journey with us. And this program will end by 19th of August. So whoever completes this challenge, whoever finished reading four books and submitting the reading log, they'll be awarded with a digital certificate. And we also have a digital library app. The app name is MyLove. You can find the app from the Play Stores. So same login procedure what we followed for the website version, bro browser version. You have to select your country, enter a user ID and password, so you can easily access the digital library to your mobile device also. So these are the two ways you can access the digital library. If in case of any questions, please write to digitallibrary@britishcouncil.org. I wish you all the best for the reading journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Balavan. I put the email in the chat and I will give some time for everybody to copy that in case you have any queries or you find any technical issues. Please reach out through the email address provided in the chat, and we are very responsive on emails. And thank you, everyone, for your time and your patience. And I hope everybody had a good time over here. And by the chat, I can also see that it's coming in. And thank you, B, and especially Rashi over here as well. Everybody, good luck. I hope you have a very good time reading whatever you like to read. And is there by the way any way, Valavan, if anybody wants to submit more than six, would they want to read more than the challenge required numbers, they can do so?
There is no limitation for the maximum number of submissions. So the minimum number required is four.
Perfect. So happy reading, everybody. I hope you enjoyed summers wherever you are from around the world. And thank you for joining us today. And you have a good time. And that's it from us. Thank you. Have a good weekend.